Alright, welcome everybody to the first episode of Road to 2200. Pretty much going to be, I guess, like a vlog or something of the note of me climbing from 1400 to 2200. Alright, so a little bit stuff about me. Hi, I'm Lester, in case you didn't know from the screen name on YouTube. But yeah, so as of creating this video, I'm rated 1400 in chess.com, and a little bit of stuff about me in relation to chess. I really got into it from joining basically from my last year of chess club in high school. Afterwards, just got hooked on it, and pretty much did chess tutoring as well, and played a couple tournaments. Did pretty good, but basically climbed up to 0 to around my chess.com rating, and then quit for a while, because of work, life, college, stuff like that. It wasn't really that big in my college, and I guess one of the other activities that kind of eclipsed it for me from chess was online poker is really big back then. I guess that kind of gives away my age and stuff, but anyways, whatever. But that's another video. So the point of this series is once again just for me to, I guess, record my thoughts and reflections and stuff on working my way up from 1400 to 22. The first part of this video will mostly be climbing up through chess.com. But afterwards, I plan to share my games as well that I expect to do USCF, so official over-the-board rating stuff, when this whole COVID thing dies down. But yeah, so I guess let's get to it on the first game. Right, so the very first game that I did to get, I guess, de-rusted more or less was to play a chess.com tournament. I remember from my old instructor that I used to learn from, basically games that are like super fast, meaning under 15 minutes. It's kind of hard to, I guess, develop your overall chess thought process, I guess. So basically faster games are like a different animal from longer games. Makes kind of sense when you think about it, but I guess it kind of relates to like doing other things, I guess, other skills, where when you're first starting out or trying to learn new skills, chess is no different. That the slower you go, at least when you're first learning how to do this stuff, the better it is for your benefit, so you can really like ingrain the technique, besides repetition. So that's why I'm going to stick to games that are mostly 15 minutes and longer to, I guess, benchmark my growth, and that'll be the rating that I'll use online, as well as games that I show that I end up playing live. I expect this climb to probably take like 2 to 3 years, but we'll see. It could go faster, it could go a little bit longer, so I'll be pretty much posting consistently at least once a week on this stuff. Yeah, so I basically played a chess.com online tournament. I think it was like a G15 plus 10, meaning that and it was a Swiss, so 5 rounds, so we'll go through 5 games today. For those of you that are kind of new to chess, it's basically every time you make a move, you have a 15 minutes first, and then you get 10 seconds bonus time. Alright, so over here I'm playing black, and this was, the 1400 was like my old rating that I had a long time ago, like we said, and this tournament was like capped to like people that were 1500 and lower, so it's kind of cool, kind of fun. I had the black pieces, I was against somebody with white, and let's go play it out. So very first move here, my opponent did d4. I guess my takes on it is mostly people like this like to play more positional, since it pretty much allows white to get like a close game if they wanted to. For me, I personally like open games, so I counterattack the center right away with c5, and white has to make a decision. Typically, they just play d5 and try to keep it closed, like players that normally play this opening. No surprise here, my opponent actually did that. And then I wanted to do classical stuff here, like in the opening, as in like control the center and stuff. So I just responded back with d6. And then my opponent did e4, controlling the center. Normally at these times I like to play the Beko gambit with b5 here, but I kind of can't, since I would just be giving it away with their bishop due to e4. Typically, instead of e4 here, I normally expect these type of players to play c4 afterwards, and then I could be in the gambit. But you know, you gotta do whatever's there. So in this case, I just decided to develop. So I guess for you more newer people, in the beginning, the general rules are in the opening is you want to basically get all your pieces out, control your center, and castle and stuff, right? So I'm trying to do things along those lines. And if you're normally stuck between whether bringing out a knight or a bishop, general rule of thumb, granted, you know, tactics aside, if there's a really pressing need for it, mostly people recommend to bring out the knights first. And over here it makes sense, right? Every time I do a move, I like to for it to have like a multi-purpose ability. So in this case, when I bring out my knight to develop, I also attack his e4 pawn. Alright, cool. So he responded by defending it, or she, from the picture, I guess. I mean, I don't know if it's a dude or a girl. I do continue doing standard stuff, like saying how we would develop knights first. So knight to d7. And then afterwards, this person as well develops their knight, which I think is a little bit wonky, since it kind of blocks their bishop from developing. So it probably hints to me that they are probably going to fianchetto or something. For those of you that don't know what that word means, it's basically they bring this pawn out and then they bring this bishop out and then they castle. Right. So afterwards, I want to play b5, but to prepare that, I decided to play a6. I guess one thing to consider, this move would have been fine if this bishop wasn't blocked, but it is. So it was actually a more active line, which was to play b5 directly, which is what I thought was kind of interesting. The reason is because I stopped calculating after knight takes b5, but it goes to show that you have to calculate a little bit more further, since after they take my pawn, I actually get a good position back, since I could just basically take back the knight, take back the center pawn with the knight. That's a pretty good trade, trading a side pawn for a center pawn, especially in the beginning of the game. And their appropriate response here is to just develop, and I could pretty much play, bring out my pieces with a pretty comfortable development. Alright. Alright. So back to the game after a6. They're doing the fianchetto line, which I pretty much knew what was going to happen after they play that knight out. To e2 over here. Alright. So I continue with my plan on b5. The main reason for b5 that I wanted to do this was really to attack this e4 pawn right here. Yeah, and the way I do this is to remove this defender by playing b4. So my opponent here plays a3, trying to stop it, I guess. Which is fine. Once again, in the opening, what we want to do is develop our pieces, so let's just continue doing that. Playing bishop b7, pretty much following the opening rules. My opponent does the same, and I also just continue trying to develop my piece. On deciding where this f7 bishop to go. Normally in lines like these, I'm pretty comfortable with fianchettoing shadowing as well, so I just decided to go down that road. Now my opponent castles, no big deal. We're just going to continue with our plan of developing. They play bishop d2, which, it's alright. I was kind of expecting bishop f4, but whatever, it's cool. So I castle, so now we almost completed development. We gotta move this queen somewhere, but after that we'd basically be done. Opponent plays knight a2. I don't play these types of positions that often, but from an activity standpoint, this knight looks terrible. I think my opponent's probably going to push c4, so I guess if they want to, that's pretty much an okay option to consider. Right, so now I officially finished development, now that I placed my queen in a good, basically in an upper spot to allow my rooks to connect. Once again, typically in the opening, you want to fight for the center a little bit and bring out your pieces, and then lastly castle and connect your rooks. In this case, everything's complete, so we're officially in the middle game. And before, when I was first starting out, I would get kind of like, I don't know, confused or what to do here, or think really hard. But luckily now, since I know you gotta play for the center, most of my plans here are, since I have more space on the queen side over here, I could potentially just lead an attack over here, trying to bust open their queen side and then make a strong attack that way, or just try to fight for the center right here and just trying to contest their extended pawns in the middle. Alright, so c3 was a really weird move when I saw that there. The main reason is I really don't know what the point of this one is, because of the fact that it kind of makes their knight kind of dead, their a3 knight, and literally it can basically only go backwards. It's out of the game already. Like they removed like their knight out of this whole game, and the activity is very low, and it can't even go here because of my pawn on c5. So I thought this was a really strange move, but it made me not want to play c4 now, because I don't want to give up control of the square and allow their knight back in the game, because right now it's like effectively I'm like up a piece. So with that idea in mind, I'm not going to play for the queen side anymore. Instead, I am going to definitely try to break open this middle and take advantage of the fact that that knight on a3 is not going to get into action anytime soon. So in response, I started with e6 right away. Want to open up the center, since the fact that my pieces are more developed and ready for action than white's. So they took back, and I instantly took back as well, since it's pretty much forced. Alright, so every time your opponent does something, it's always good to ask what are they planning, or what are they threatening. This way you kind of don't overlook their plan. At least for me it helps anyway. And as you can see right here, when they do knight to f4, what they're really threatening here is taking my undefended pawn on e6, right? So with that in mind, I have to defend it, and there's really only two options here. One is to use this rook or the other rook, and pushing the pawn forward is not really an option, because of the fact that even if I push it forward, there would actually be a fork on my major pieces here, so I really can't push it forward. Right. The main reason why I picked the a rook to go in the middle instead of the f rook is because of the fact that I have this semi-open file here, and I pretty much can control a lot of squares. It's more active, while as opposed to my a8 rook kind of wasn't really doing anything. Alright, so my opponent responded with bringing the rook down the middle. I think it's alright. They're just trying to bring their pieces active. One thing I noticed though is with this rook coming in here, it kind of weakens the square a little bit, since the fact that my rook is kind of eyeing it. Maybe we could do something there in the future, but yeah, we'll see. As for me, my next moves that I want to do, I thought about playing c4, but once again, I just want to keep their knight out of the game, so I don't want to do that yet. I also thought about playing d5. The real reason is just because I just want to continue with my plan of opening up the middle, but their pieces look kind of active, and I kind of didn't want to raise the activity of my opponent, nor just letting them just like push it and just clogging everything up a little bit, although that would be alright in this case since I defended a lot. So what I ended up doing here was just trying to get my knight that's not doing anything out of the game. Another like rule of thumb that I like to do is whenever stuck on what to plan, I'll look at my piece that isn't doing anything and just basically make it do something, right? So knights are pretty much really good deep into the enemy territory or like in the middle, because they can do a lot of stuff from the middle, right? So with that in mind, the move was basically bring the knight towards the middle, open up some kind of threats, so I could maybe put it over there in the future, or maybe even put it over here, trying to take their bishop, and their weak pawn. So there's lots of stuff here. My opponent responded to that by moving their queen over to c2. I like that move, since the fact that it protects that weak pawn and also connects their rooks. Pretty good. So next up for me, now that I have all my pieces up and running, and I kind of stopped their e4 from moving, and I pretty much can't develop any other piece at the moment, I just have to go for the pawn break now. So d5, and they took back, and I took back, and they responded with d3. So pretty interesting here, I guess I would say. I give this a really long think. I was debating on whether to just straight up take the knight and kind of simplify, since I know if there was less pieces on the board at the end of all this trading, I'd probably still fare a little bit better, since that knight on a2 has been out of the game for like forever, and it'll take a long time for it. And generally looking like most of my pieces are already ready to do something. But besides that move, I also thought about bringing my knight out to e4, which looked pretty interesting. The main reason why, before playing that, let me play the side variation. The main reason why I didn't play the knight to e4 was I was really concerned with this pin right here, this bishop to e4, since I would have to move my queen around, and I think it would just mitigate my ability to do what I want. But after doing some analysis, I found out it wasn't really that all bad, since white's best move here is to take back, and then after that take back with rook, and then he continues with the pin. So there's that thing that was bothering me. But there's an interesting ability, since our rook here was very active, was to just sack it, which I was like, what? I pretty much stopped calculating up to here. Maybe I should calculate even more, just to spot the stuff. So after the sacrifice, pretty much bringing the rook out of danger, it's the best spot, and eyeing the square could potentially be useful later on. And then bishop takes just to liquidate, to simplify, since they're kind of like ahead of the exchange, right? They want to, it's a tactic that you want to do when you're ahead. But surprisingly, not surprisingly, is that in this position, black is actually in a really good spot, because of the fact that white's two pieces over here are kind of out of the game, and the fact that I have a rook that's really active with the exposed king, and to the bishop pair, it compensates me way more, at least at this point. And just to play it out to prove that it ends up being winning more or less is here's a sample variation. Queen d2. I mean, like, where else are they gonna go, right? I attack it with the rook, get a tempo, so they're trying to block it with their, get the queen to safety, block the advanced pawn, and then just keep on harassing the queen basically for an attack, right? And now that I'm targeting this pawn, it's gonna fall. They really can't do anything about it, and pretty much win the exchange back, which is kind of cool. So yeah, so back to the real move. I played knight takes because I stopped calculating after that potential pin. I didn't really think about sacking my rook. And then he took back. Kind of questionable, right? Because now I got the superior position after a series of exchanges. But first things first, I played knight to e4 here, threatening to take their bishop while winning a pretty good exchange. And also I am eyeing this square as well, trying to attack more. White had no choice to give up their fianchetto bishop. At least that's what they decided to do. Really good position for me now. So I took back with pawn, threatening to attack their queen and use it as maybe a battering ram to open up this square. They move back. And then over here, this is where I missed the win. I didn't see attacking with the e3 pawn. I guess over here I was really focused on trying to, I guess, push an attack right away, even though it kind of wasn't concrete enough. So, to show you how black would easily continue the win here, you push the pawn. After they take, you can basically threaten lots of mating threats here. So it's pretty good. But here's my mistake, letting white back into the game a little bit. So now they blockade my pawn, which pretty much lowers the activity of my bishop here, which kind of stinks. I played f3 here, kind of giving up this pawn because of the fact that I basically want to push this, but my opponent doesn't fall for it. That's something to think about, that you pretty much don't want to play moves that depend on your opponent making a mistake. You should just play really strong moves in general, and if the mistake comes, just pick it up. I guess kind of like how you don't want to wish for good luck to happen to you. You should just kind of do the best thing that you can do, and if the luck happens to good event or luck happens to come, then take advantage of it. So yeah, I pull back, perhaps not to the best square. f7 might have been better, since I could still eye this piece in case he ever moves his rook, but yeah, it is what it is. So they basically allowed him to move his rook to the center now, since my queen isn't that square. I played rook to f7 here because of the fact that I was trying to think on making a battery over here. Granted that I probably should have picked the more aggressive move, which is putting the bishop in the middle to centralize it and attack that knight. So they play c4, blocking my ability to actually put my bishop there. I respond by defending, and then white actually gets their knight back into the game, and this is where it starts going bad for me. Psychologically, I feel like I lost initiative here, so my moves start becoming a whole lot worse. I had to defend against that pawn here. That's why I had to push the pawn up. So they exchanged, and I exchanged back, and then once they played knight d5, I think this is when me losing the initiative kind of slipped up on me, and I made a real big mistake here, which is putting the knight over here. Putting the rook over here, and I basically drop a pawn for free, and I go into a terrible endgame. So pretty much after this game, after this, I pretty much couldn't recover and lost my first match in the 5-round tournament. Kind of sad, but whatever. I noticed that in general seems to be a trend with me every time or at least in the past anyway. Every time I do a tournament, I would always lose the first round and then win the next ones. But it's been a while since I played, and this was like my first game in like 3 years, so they're more than 3 years. So moved on to the next one, round 2 of the tournament. So this time I got the white pieces, and this time I get to decide how the game should start out, right? I like playing e4 just because when I first learned chess, big Bobby Fischer fan, and I like the open games. I like the tactics. I like all the aggressive opening lines that you could do. So definitely my choice as well. So my opponent responds with g6, basically not contesting the center right away. I don't really mind it or anything, but it is what it is. So I'm just going to continue my principled manner of in the opening, just trying to develop my pieces and controlling the center, right? So with that in mind, d4, they play bishop g7, no big deals. I'm still going to develop my pieces as normal. And then they play c5. So this stuff kind of tilts me. I know this happens. I just forgot that it happens. It's been a while since I played. But I transposing to open Sicilian by accident. Or at least this guy did it on purpose. But I probably should have opened with c3 instead of knight f3 next time. Alright, so since I know it's going to transpose to an open Sicilian, I just let it. In this case, so knight takes and then pawn takes and knight takes. So now we're inside an open Sicilian now. They play queen b6, so they're trying to be aggressive right here, attacking my knight and also attacking this, weakening this line right here, this pawn. I picked a more passive route here since I wasn't too comfortable with this against the opening by bringing my knight back. It was a pretty much big mistake. The optimal move here, like in most cases, is to pick the more active move, which is bringing the knight up to b5. And just to show you a sample variation, if they do bishop takes, trying to double my pawns or whatever, I just take back with knight, and I don't know, I think this position is pretty comfortable. And black basically lost their long bishop here. So this would actually be making me very happy. But once again, going back, I didn't do that. I brought the knight back. Since, once again, I wasn't really too comfortable, I wanted to make a more defensive move here. So they develop as usual. Although we talked about before in the opening, you want to bring out your pieces. If you can bring out your pieces to do more than one thing. In this case, I have a move here that attacks the queen. You should do it. So it was a pretty easy move for me. Bishop to e3, attacking their queen in case they don't do anything. Play queen to b4. So once again, it's always good to analyze your opponent's threat after they move. This queen is now eyeing my e4 position, e4 pawn, and the main thing that I was really thinking about was, oh man, I gotta protect my knight since I only have one thing defending it and there's two things attacking it, right? So I played queen d2, big mistake, kind of, since I give up control of this square and only defend this. So the better move here was actually d3, queen d3, guarding both of them. But the main reason why I didn't play because I was concerned over knight e5. But when knight e5 actually occurs, now it becomes more or less safe. Since if I push my queen back, the bishop can no longer do any tricks to weaken this square. So I should have calculated that a little bit more, but that's what I get for being rusty. I'm just gonna chalk it up and just analyze more attacks when I look at the very different variations. But anyways, back to the real game. So queen d2 is what I played. Opponent took, basically going to double up my pawns, and that's pretty much what I expected. So I took back, And this is when I realized that, oh snap, I'm gonna lose my pawn. But my opponent made a mistake here. They put their queen over here. I don't know why, but they just want to get it out of the way, I guess. But yeah, let's go take a look at what happens if they actually took back in the center with the queen. So they took back with the queen. My position would be kind of rough. I try to bring out my pieces and control the center a little bit as much as I can. Over here, trying to castle here, just trying to get all my pieces out, and then attacking the queen a little bit. And as they move back, just pretty much trying to take up space. So even being down a pawn, I am a little bit more developed, have more control in the center. It's thinly in my favor, but honestly, I'd rather not be in that situation if I only play queen d3 first. But luckily my opponent did not do that, so they played queen a3. So now we're back to the opening principle still, since everything is solid more or less in my part, besides these double pawns that I found kind of annoying. But, well, I mean, at least this pawn here stops the knight from moving in, so it actually does something. The piece that I need to make me castle here is this bishop, so I pretty much just pushed it all the way as far as I could. Right over here, and the next thing I like about it is besides threatening to take the knight whenever I want to, I also take away the square from the queen. So the queen here is looking pretty trapped. Alright, so my opponent plays queen b2. I thought that was kind of weird since I wasn't attacking it or anything, and since it's deeper into my territory, it is very likely not to become trapped. And they're not even attacking my rook here because I protected with the knight, so I'll just do what I've been doing, developing, just castle. Now I'm threatening to actually take this soon in a couple moves, since their only escape square is this. They played a6, really kind of forcing my hand to do something with this bishop. So with that in mind, I really want to play for capturing their overextended queen. So I just took their knight over here and removing their only active piece. Black captured back, and continuing with my plan to trap this queen. I wanted to reposition all of my pieces to attack. Therefore, I moved my bishop to d4, threatening to take this bishop in case they, threatening to take this rook. So black played knight f6, blocking me from taking that rook, which made sense, and also attacking my pawn over here. I didn't mind it since I feel that black here is now seriously about to lose their queen. So I played a4. Now this queen has nowhere to go since my rook is also covering the square, and basically I control everything around the queen, right? It's all mine. So I just need one more piece to come in to capture this queen. They played knight, threatening my queen right here, and I have to defend the square since I only have my queen and my bishop defending it. So I'm gonna keep the queen still nearby the c3 pawn, just so black's queen doesn't escape, along with c2. So this is a pretty easy move to play queen d3, guarding the two squares that make sure black's queen's trapped. So black returned the knight to knight f6, making sure that the rook is safe more or less, along with their knight. And now here comes the cutting blow. Well, bam. Here black's queen is totally trapped. Since it's completely trapped, they just took the rook, so I'm up the exchange, and this is pretty good for white. So black castled, and afterwards I pretty much got into an easy endgame by simplifying. So one of the things that you can do, at least something that I didn't do back when I first started out. When I first learned how to play chess, I always wanted to play like really strong moves all the time, as strong as I can at least. But one thing that I noted after getting lessons from this one grandmaster that I really liked was that he was really practical in the sense that he was like, hey, if you're in a tournament, you don't really get any bonus points for making the strongest moves. You win the tournament by winning, right? So if you can make easy moves for you that aren't really the best moves, but if they lead you to the win, then by all means make it easier for yourself to get that win. Therefore, you can win the tournament, right? So in my case, when I'm ahead, I literally like to trade down. So this way my advantage becomes clear and my opponent can't make anything complicated for a shot to make them win. So after trading back, I pretty much sealed the deal here by making my pieces more active than my opponents now. So queen d6, threatening to take this piece right here and locking their center pawn. So black defends it, and in my response, I just need to get this knight more into the game. So I brought it up, threatening to take this pawn for free, and they pretty much wanted to come in here, and I just want to reduce counterplay, so I just brought in my king. Nothing too special. And over here, black decides to push the pawn up for some reason. I guess, I don't know. Knowing that we're ahead, just want to simplify. I brought the rook back into the game. I just want to trade down here. My opponent decided to play bishop a6. Made my job even easier since I want to simplify. So knight takes bishop, rook takes. Oh yeah, then there's rook take rook. Then I take back, and then I go into an endgame where I'm effectively a queen versus a rook, and I'm gonna basically take everything here. So this game pretty much wrapped up real fast. Okay. So now on to the next game. All right. So for the third round, now that we're 1-1, we got the white pieces again, luckily. So we can more open games, right? Yay! This time my opponent responded with e5. I like it when people do this, so I can get to play my little pet openings that I like. I like to play like little gambit games where I get an attack real fast if my opponent doesn't know what they're doing. That's just me. So, but you'll see in a few couple moves. So pretty standard stuff with, again, some e4, e5, and then here comes the little gambit that I like to play with d4. My opponent accepted. I'm bringing out my pieces for sacrificing a pawn more faster than my opponent. So my opponent plays c5, and I want to bait them, see if they're greedy to go take more pawns. Lucky for me, my opponent did. And this is where I basically stop them from castling and really get to annoy them, which is really fun. So it looks like I'm going to sack my bishop, but not really. He didn't take back, which I thought was kind of weird, but whatever. So I'll just take another piece. This is when I thought he would take back with rook, but he actually took back with king, which makes it even easier for me since I get to take his bishop with check right here. So I move back to the side, take the bishop with check again, and then he blocks, and I take the pawn, and I'm basically up 2 pieces for nothing, and black can't castle anymore. This is really good. So he plays g4 here. Once again, since we're up now, I wouldn't mind simplifying. So I'm attacking the bishop, trying to force them to trade if they want to. He doesn't want to, so I'll just attack his bishop again. Since I pretty much have it trapped, since when it moves over, if it moves over here, I can threaten to take it if I want to, but yeah. Alright, so I moved over there, kind of like how we expected. In this case, now that it moved over here, the main reason why I did this was because I wanted to play a knight g5, threatening to attack the queen and bring out my piece a little bit more. So that's what I ended up doing. They move their queen to the side, so basically now this e4 pawn is really under attack. I don't mind since I'm ahead a whole minor piece, so I castle it away. Black takes, and now I'm pretty happy since I get to bring out my other knight, and now all my pieces are basically developed, while yeah, everything seems pretty comfortable for me. Black plays queen d5, and I decide to take the easy road here by being able to simplify by attacking their pawn right over here. So attacking this pawn and also offering a trade. Granted, a more interesting move, if I want to be more aggressive, was to actually play bishop h6 here, attacking this point. Black can't take because otherwise I'd take the rook with check. So one variation that black could have done here was to play g6, and then I would just play bishop e3, continuing on with my day. But at least it would have been a nice little interesting move. Okay, so back to the queen b3 move that I did. He didn't want to trade nor defend against this, so he basically added more pieces to defend his queen, I guess, by playing bishop e4. This pretty much makes it an easy game for me now, since I'm just going to simplify even more. So knight takes, queen takes, rook f e1, bringing my rook into the game and also attacking his queen. Now that the queen is out there to the side, it looks really, really out of place. And the fact that I have all of these pieces going through here, I abandoned my idea of trading down by just going for an attack. So when queen e6 over here, actually a more better move here was a tactic that I missed out on. If you notice, the queen's only defended by the knight, so I should probably just get rid of it. The only way to do it was with check here. So knight takes, and then I pretty much just take it for free. So that was cool. And black has to basically do that, because instead, if they went off to the side instead, I would still get the queen with discovered check. So either way, getting the queen because of this. So cool stuff. Obviously I missed it by going through this attack. He just took my pawn, and now I decided to play the check move. Granted, it's a little bit weaker now since the queen is no longer exposed, the enemy queen. But I get a nice little attack towards the middle now. So king g8, decide to bring my knight in, I'm threatening a mating threat here. So they decide to defend, and I just continue with my plan of simplifying now, since I didn't see any other tricks that I could do to attack. So I do the forced trade right here, and afterwards from here, headed to an easy endgame and just whittled my opponent down, and on to the next one. Okay, so after playing black, playing white for the last two games, feeling pretty good. Lost the first one, but won the next two, and now we're on to the fourth one. So if I do well in this one, I could potentially go to the finals with a really good score, maybe first or second. I don't know about first, but maybe second or third place. Anyways, so my opponent played d4 again, and you know me, I like to attack the center as much as possible. So c5, similar to before, my opponent just pushed it forward, and I responded in kind. So they went with the e4 thing. I don't know why this is so popular. I was totally expecting this, but whatever. Alright, so I'm pretty much playing the same moves as before. Getting ready to play a3 for the b5 move again. This time my opponent actually helps me out by playing bishop c4, so I get to play b5 with tempo, so basically get a free move because I'm attacking their bishop here. So they have to move back, and now once when they move back, I can now attack this weak e4 square. I do the first move here by removing its defender, so it's forced to push back. Now I play queen c7 because I want support for this pawn to get rid of this defender right here by getting rid of this bishop, right? Knight f3, so my opponent did a real big mistake by basically not thinking what I'm threatening with this move here. So now I can punish them by, instead of just winning this pawn, I actually win this bishop because it straight up can't go anywhere. So they took back, and I am now up a piece, really significant in the beginning stages of the game. Opponent played b3, trying to attack my queen. No big deal. I am now taking that free pawn that I really wanted, was planning all along. Opponent castled, and they're just losing more and more pawns. So then they played queen d4. I don't know why. Maybe they wanted me to move their knight up more, so okay, that's cool with me. Right. And then afterwards, I decided to play e5 since I'm attacking that knight, and also allows this bishop to move out a little bit. So double good move. That knight was forced to retreat. And then afterwards, I played bishop g4, just literally simplifying this position into a quick, easy endgame. So just play a couple moves. I don't want to drag this out. They developed their bishop, and I doubled their pawns, and pretty much got all of my pieces out ahead by a lot. Okay, so after winning this one, I made it to the final round, going as white, which is nice. And the one thing that I noticed was my opponent right here, Slobodano, he actually was heading in 4-4, so he won straight, which was pretty impressive, I guess, since he's rated 1200, and there was like the highest people here were like 1500, so that was kind of cool, at least on his part. While for me, I was 3-4, and based on all of my opponent's scoreboard, I noticed that if I won this, I would actually be first place, tied with Slobodino, but I guess I would be first since I beat him, like legit first, even though our scores would be the same in the final round. Yeah, so not so bad since I'm white here with the advantage of the first move, so we'll see if I could convert him to something. So I'll do my e4 that I like. Here's pawn with e5, so I'm feeling pretty good. Maybe I can get off another gambit. Knight f3, and then he goes with like the Philidor, and I don't know, it's pretty passive defensive, so I'm not really threatened by this opening or anything, but I think it's more of like a really calm or chill game. So d4, just want to control the center, get all my pieces out. He takes, I'll take back with knight, just in case if he wants to bring out his knight here, I will plan to double up his pawns. So he doesn't do that, so I just basically bring out my pieces, trying to castle out. Notice here, he is threatening to take, so I should defend it. Multi-purpose move here, bring out the knight, and defend it. Cool stuff. He castles, I pretty much castle back, doing standard opening stuff. Plays a3 here, which I find kind of odd. Black had a much better opportunity here by winning a pawn. He could have just straight up taken my pawn, and then I would get forked. So, yeah, and then I would push back, he would take, and then it looked like he was up a pawn, but kind of not really. But in Black's case, if you're playing a passive opening like the Philidor, that definitely would be a good spot for Black in this particular situation. Anyways, let's go back to the game. So he played a3. I mean a6, sorry. So I guess he doesn't want my knights coming over here for some odd reason or something. Whatever, that's cool. So I'm going to defend this e4 pawn because I don't want that tactic to pop up, right? So he plays b5 here, attacking my bishop. That's totally cool. I made a little mistake here by playing bishop b3. Just one thing to note here is that he can actually trap my bishop here by playing c5 next, and I'm forced to move my knight and then lock it down again. So the real better move here was to actually play d5 here and just lose the exchange when he takes. That's why it was a better move. But the reason why I didn't want to do that was because I didn't want to lose my bishop for a knight. In general, a bishop's worth more than a knight just by a little bit because they can control more areas when the board gets more opened up and stuff. But I didn't see that calculation where they could trap my piece. Luckily, my opponent didn't do that. So when bishop b3 happened, they actually finished each other their bishop. Right. So let me go show you what they should have done to trap my bishop. c5, f5, knight f5, c4, my bishop's done. Like, there's no other way around it. They got free moves on me because my knight was under attack. Alright. So they didn't do that. They played bishop b7 instead. I should have played knight f5 right away so I can stop them from playing the c5 threat. Instead, I guess my opponent and I both didn't see it. I guess we're both kind of tired since the last round. Instead, I played bishop g5 since I just wanted to develop my pieces and stuff. So b4, my opponent definitely did not take advantage of trapping my piece, thankfully, I guess. So I just wanted to simplify the position a little bit and remove their attacker on my e4 square since I'm going to have to move this knight. So they took back. And now I play d5. I feel very comfortable here since I'm threatening to win the exchange here if they don't do something about it. And my knight's a pretty good spot. So they decided to exchange with the bishop pair, which I'm pretty happy about. So I took back with bishop here instead of pawn because I'm threatening to take this in case they don't do anything about it. They block with knight. So this was really bad for them since they're only defending it once and I am attacking it multiple times. So I took back with knight because I didn't want to take back with bishop since I thought I would lose the defender by this line. So knight takes here, and then I was concerned what if they did that, but I didn't think about it all the way because I'm going to take this. So it was actually better to take with bishop basically. And to show you the line, knight takes back, and I just basically win the piece for free, right? Okay. So knight to c6, threatening to take the queen or the other knight, whatever. So they just take it back with knight, I take it back with bishop, threatening this now, but they can get away with it. So they just push it to the side, sidestepping that threat. I'm going to threaten to take a pawn now. Might as well. They took this pawn, threatening to take my rook. So it's kind of easy for me, I guess, since I feel that this pawn is very weak, and if we exchange, I'll be alright. So I decided to exchange rooks here. And then I just had to take back their pawn and be up a pawn and let them go. Let their bishop go, I mean. So they're threatening to take my rook here. So a pretty easy move here, move the rook. Decided just to move it up to its highest point. And this actually just became a very comfortable endgame being up a pawn. So now since I'm up a pawn, my goal here is to trade down if possible, and also target this weakness right here. So the reason why it's a weak pawn is because there's no other pawn defending it. It's all the way in the back, and I think I can probably take it down. I'm not really worried about this pawn right here because it's guarded by this bishop, and since we have opposite square bishops, these bishops kind of can never touch each other. They're like in a total other dimension. So queen b6, they're threatening my bishop, just whatever, so I have to reposition it. I decided to put it at c4, so I can get it to this square right here and guard these two pawns, if need be. d4, bishop d4 here, threatening to attack my rook and f2 point, so I decided to pull my rook down. Hindsight 2020, rook f3 is probably better here because of the fact that I am targeting this point, basically trapping this rook to guard this pawn. But I didn't do that. Instead, I played e2, which is okay, but once again, it's not as aggressive. I should have went with a more aggressive move. So they played queen c5, just attacking my bishop, so I have to defend it somehow. Decided to get my queen into the game a little bit more by bringing it in, so whatever. Plays rook c8, now he's really threatening it by attacking it twice, and I'm only defending it once. So I push my bishop back. Now it's in the good spot that I actually planned a while back. And then he plays this move, h8, which I thought was kind of weird because, what the heck, the pawn, right? I felt that I should probably do something with this rook since it's not really moving anywhere. Maybe continue on with attacking this weak pawn. The reason why I felt kind of iffy on attacking this is because he has so much pressure right now on my f2 pawn that I kind of didn't want to give him an excuse if he got the rook there, but I got kind of greedy and I just went for it, whatever. So it gave my opponent a lot of counterplay. It wasn't the best idea. So rook f8, then I did queen c4. Willing to do a trade here in case he wanted to, but it wasn't the best move because it allowed black with too much counterplay. And to go through one of those lines that was would have been way worse for me was queen g5, so he refused to trade, and then I would have to do something to relieve my king here since threatening this. So g3, giving him some space. f6, now I have to move this bishop, more or less, because it's under attack. I think I'm going to have to let it go because there's too many pieces attacking this point. So I'm going to play e5. The best move here is to play e5 to block the communication for this bishop right here, the defense for this bishop. So d takes, then now once I took back, I am finally allowed to bring this bishop back into the game, but it comes in with a cost, so takes my pawn for free. I move to the side, and I'm kind of holding it together, but it's pretty decent for black. But luckily that didn't happen. So when we're over here, my opponent decided to trade down. Yay me, makes my life a whole lot easier. So when we traded down, it was pretty cool, at least for me anyway. So we played c5. I felt like this is an easy game for me since I'm up 2 pawns and all I gotta do is just keep it easy and don't do anything too bad. So I decided to bring my king into the game, and relieving myself from this pin. Alright, so rook f4, he's starting to take. Easy peasy here, just defend it. So he plays g5. I don't know what the point of that is, maybe just grab some space. I wanted to attack this or do something with it, so I brought my rook to just stop it from advancing, I guess. Then once when they played g4, I really needed to defend it, since once when my pawn goes back, he is attacking me twice. So I brought my king up for the defense, or maybe a little bit better would have been to bring up the rook, but whatever. So he takes, I take back. He's threatening this piece now, so I noticed that if I moved up here, it'd be kind of weird, since I can't really do anything over here, so I just had to bring my king back, just so my rook can go back over here, and I can stop him if he wants to do something, or he brings his knight somehow, his rook somehow to this g2 square. So instead he plays h5, which I was like, what? Because it feels kind of passive. So I brought my rook over here, just threatening an easy checkmate in case he doesn't notice. It's always nice to throw your opponent's little threats here and there, especially since this endgame position, nothing really is gonna be going on, right? Like, you can't really push, because I'll take it. And you can't really push over here, because, once again, I'll take it. So, it doesn't really cost me anything to do this move. I guess my opponent just kind of gave up, because he just did this move and just trapped himself for the checkmate. So yeah, that was kind of cool. And basically, in the tournament that I haven't played chess in a long while, I actually came back on it, and just go to prove, if you ever play in these tournaments and actually win one, you can legit actually win a medal. So mine was over here. Went 4 out of 5, and like I said, since I beat my opponent, I basically topped them and made the first place, so that was kind of cool. Going over this analysis, I realized that I am way too rusty, and really thankful, I guess, to my opponents for making these mistakes and not exploiting mine so well. But hey, that's just the way it is. Yeah, so this is episode 1, I guess, on the climb to 2200 rating. Luckily for me, that since my rating here was provisional at chess.com, more or less, that my rating drove up to almost 1500 now. So not so bad, 76 points in a couple of games. So good stuff. I guess until next time. Yeah, signing out.